Hi holograms, it's new! I meant to make this video like 8 months ago, but here we are. So last year in 2020, one of the good things that happened for me was that I was able to finally get ketamine infusion therapy. For those of you who are new to my channel, my diagnoses are ulcerative colitis, which is an inflammatory bowel disease, and then there's fibromyalgia, myalgic encephalomyelitis, atlas subluxation, and type 2 narcolepsy. So I have a lot going on. I'm in pain all of the time. I'm tired all the time. I have very limited resources, so I have to just get things done when I can and then rest the rest of the time. I have a handicap parking placard for really bad days. It just helps me out so much to be able to not have to worry about the meter and to park closer when I have to run to the store and stuff like that. I also have depression, anxiety, and PTSD, and trust me, for all of these ailments, I have tried everything. I've tried changing my diet, I've tried medication, I've tried supplements, I have tried meditation, Ayurveda, positive thinking, journaling. I do everything. I work so hard every day to manage myself. I have a planner, I have a schedule. I'm very, very serious about being able to live my life despite these challenges. But, and this is a big but, it's incredibly hard. It's obvious for those of you who are also spoonies, but if you maybe have never met someone with invisible illnesses like this, it can be really hard to understand and to reconcile the way that we look and the way that we present ourselves with the reality, which is that, like, right now, I'm in a lot of pain. I've been working since morning. Anyway, ketamine infusion therapy is something that I had wanted to try for a long time, but I was kind of scared. I didn't really know what to expect. I actually talked about this recently on the Hey Who podcast. This is a podcast that I've been on a few times, so I'll put the link below to that episode if you want to listen to it. So first off, yeah, ketamine sounds pretty scary. It's an anesthetic, but it became popular as a party drug, Special K. It's a little bit scary when people hear, like, this is being used to treat people with depression, PTSD, chronic pain. Like, oof, I don't know about that. And that's how I felt too, but when I did more research, I was like, oh, okay, I think I may need to look into this because, like I said, I've tried so many different things for my health. I've been on antidepressants and it just wasn't right for me. I've also been on pain pills and stuff like that, which I don't ever want to do again. So how did I even get to the ketamine? It kind of happened by accident. In late 2019, I was having a lot of really, really bad flare-ups. It was just back to back to back infections that were triggering all of these neurological symptoms, which I kind of had before, but it was just so severe. Muscle spasms, spasticity, and blurred vision. Half of my face was going numb. I lost like 17 pounds in 2019. I didn't have health insurance. It wasn't stopping, so I eventually forced myself to go to the ER, which is really, really hard for me because on top of just regular PTSD from childhood trauma, bullying, and that kind of stuff, I have medical PTSD as a result of trying to get help when you have chronic illnesses. It's really common for people to have medical PTSD along with everything else, which just makes it that much harder to get help when you need it. It takes time for me to mentally and emotionally recover afterwards. It's really, really difficult. So I went to the ER and they were able to sign me up for emergency medical, which I hadn't really thought of before, and it was actually a family friend who said, go to the ER, you can probably get on this, just do it. It's better to take care of yourself, right? And it always is, but we don't go to the doctor because we don't want to go into debt. And this is why people die, and this is why people suffer, and yeah, it's not cute. Although my experience going to the ER was pretty negative, it's just that situation where they take your blood and they go, heh. Because they were able to put me on emergency medical, they actually set me up with a primary care physician who was like the only good doctor I've ever had. I've never had one who actually like fought for me to get treatments, to see doctors, to get screenings, to do everything. She sent me to a neurologist, which was the most important one. It took like 4 months for me to get all these MRIs of my brain and my spine done. So with all of those screenings out of the way, it finally cleared me to see a pain management specialist. I had never seen one before. Can you believe that? Like, for how many years I have had these conditions diagnosed and been living with them and seeing doctors and saying, I'm struggling. No one was ever like, you need to see a pain management specialist. You have chronic pain. It's pretty obvious, but the consultation I had with the pain management specialist blew me away because I am so used to having to tell doctors, no, please don't give me pills. But this doctor was like, no, absolutely not. We do not do pain pills here. We do alternative treatments. He goes, have you ever heard of ketamine? And I was like, oh, this is a ketamine clinic. Oh my God. He was like, look, I'm going to be really honest with you. It's really hard to get your specific insurance to cover ketamine infusion therapy because it's a new treatment, it's experimental, a lot of people don't understand it still, including the medical system, the medical industry. Miraculously, I was approved. I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. The catch was they had to do trigger point injections, which is like a steroid injection in your trigger points, in your muscle knots, your spasms. It's a big problem. I have a ton all over. So I kept a diary of each infusion. I got 3 total, and I want to tell you guys about how it went, what the experience was like, and what the effect was after, like how it worked for me afterward as a treatment. So like I said, I had to do the trigger point injections before the first infusion. It's always bad, trigger point injections, but I was already having a really bad neck flare-up. The nurse was spraying me with numbing spray, and the doctor was going in with each needle, and I was just, you know, and they were like, you're almost done, good job. It just says so much about the medical system that that little thing means so much to me. A doctor showing that they care about a patient even in a small way like that. So, the infusion. Now, what they did for me is a 40-minute infusion with a 30-minute cool down, and then they monitored me for another like 30 minutes or so just to make sure everything was okay. They put the IV in, they put me in a comfy chair, they gave me a little iPad with like nice relaxing music that I could choose from, and there was a light in the corner, like a lamp that changed colors. The doctor looked at me and he said, have a nice trip. And he left. So I picked a nice spacey trance music to listen to and just sat back and waited. Within 5 to 10 minutes I felt very sedated, relaxed, you know, tingly in my legs. And then a couple minutes after that I had like the double vision that you get when you wake up from surgery. It was very much like this rolling clouds or waves, warm, tingly, just very, very comforting kind of feeling at first. I'm not sure how accurate my sense of time is, but I think by 20 minutes is when I started tripping. It was just completely different from anything that I've ever felt before. I mean, I don't really have experience with like drugs except for like cannabis, which I use to manage everything. This was like, I would hear the doorbell of the clinic. It was just like, whoa! It was just the coolest sound I'd ever heard. It felt like a spirit. I was like, whoa, hey! And then the lamp in the corner was changing colors. It would go, you know, green, blue, pink, and each time it changed color, I felt so strongly like a presence, like I was meeting a different entity or goddess. I was like, hi, hello, oh, nice to meet you, oh, thank you. It was bizarre. It was just another realm. 30 minutes in, I completely escaped my human identity. I was freed. That's the only way I can describe it. It's maybe not so much that I forgot who I am, but more that I remembered who I really am, which is the me beyond this construct, this social identity, this human identity, the story that has been made for me, by me, in this incarnation. I had the experience of just being the consciousness or the conscious awareness that is focused into this nervous system in this timeline. Like, that's what it felt like. And every time I remembered that I had a body, it was like discovering an ancient, advanced technology. I remember lifting my hand up and being so amazed, like, wow, a real human robot. This is the original technology. Life. Part of it felt a lot like when you would get a new video game and you would open like the manual and it would have character bios and monster bios. It felt like I was reading about myself, like I was learning about this new person, this character, from a completely new perspective. And then I remembered my cats, my kittens, Ashley and Maxwell, and I was like, I couldn't believe they were real. They felt like some kind of mythical creatures, and I was like, wait a minute, they're real. They have 4 legs and a tail, and they're so cute, and they're so pure and perfect, and I get to be their mother. I did start like snort laughing at one point. I don't really remember what it was that was so funny, but it was so weird because like I would start laughing and then I would realize the sound was coming from me, and that would make me laugh harder because it was involuntary, and I was just fascinated by the fact that this sound could come out of me without me really trying it. So the timer went off, they turned off the flow of the IV, and the cool down began. I just laid back and stretched and tried to digest the experience I had. It was really, really unique, and I think after a lifetime of just hating myself, you know, and having such a very negative, shameful baseline perception of myself, to suddenly have a new perspective where I looked at myself and my life in awe and feeling so blessed to get to know who I am in this life. It was a completely new feeling for me. Once I was back in my body and on this planet, the doctor came in to talk to me about the experience. I did still have pain at that point because in the middle of that flare-up, during the infusion, I don't think I felt much pain. I remember that my face felt very numb, so I was like, whoa. He also asked me, like, was it scary for you? Because apparently for some people it is really scary, which is understandable. You leave your human life behind, it kind of feels like. It was like dying, but not in a scary way. For me at least. But I told him, like, no, that wasn't scary at all. It was beautiful. It was comforting. It was peaceful. It was fun. It was everything that I needed. He loved hearing that. He was like, you have made me so happy today that I am tripping with you. I will say that I think part of the reason it wasn't scary for me is because I do have a very spiritual background. I've been meditating for a long time now. But I also have narcolepsy, and I already hallucinate and experience out-of-body stuff pretty frequently since I was like 12. So this was different. Obviously, when I'm having sleep paralysis, like, you're paralyzed and you're out of your body, which is very distressing, and the hallucinations are not cute. So typically with these infusions, they do 2 infusions a week for 3 weeks, and then they do like once every few weeks to kind of give you a booster. My insurance was not into that at all. So after that first infusion, I had to wait a couple more weeks. It was 12 days after that first infusion that I felt a shift. Like, I woke up and I kind of still felt the same as far as like my pain levels. But then suddenly at nighttime, I felt so different in my body. I don't know how to describe it, but I was able to sit up at my desk and play video games for 3 hours, which is not something I can do anymore. Because of my spine, because of the chronic pain, the brain fog, everything that I deal with, it is just too difficult, so I play games in like short spurts, you know? So that was a huge sign to me that this, like, we're onto something. This is working for me. I think that this delayed response is due to the fact that it was just 1 infusion, but also it was a really rough week. Like I said, I was having that neck flare-up. I had actually also had an ingrown toenail removal and 2 spinal MRIs with dye in that same week, so no wonder I was so fucked up. Obviously, I would have had a greater effect and a quicker effect if I had been able to get the 2 infusions in 1 week, but... So that was infusion number 1, my K debut. Now let's talk about infusion number 2. I'm referencing my ketamine diary, and I noticed that I called the second infusion Lady Ketamina. Before the second infusion, I talked to the doctor about the shift that I had felt. He just held the bag of ketamine and he was like, this stuff is giving people their lives back. And I absolutely believe it. So we started the second infusion. I don't know if they gave me a higher dose this time or if it's just because it was the second time of my body receiving it, but oh my god, within 10 minutes I was completely f***ed up. New has left the matrix. Even though the second infusion was a lot more intense, I didn't giggle a whole lot. It was actually quite serious. It was like the first infusion was my introduction to the ketamine realm. And the second infusion was like, okay, it's time to get to work, because it was the same week that the protests in 2020 had started. I was feeling a lot of anger, a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of hopelessness and helplessness. This journey that the infusion took me on was, I was shot into space. It was like I was in a control room that was spinning in space. So I saw thousands of screens with different people on them, different lives, different incarnations. I felt this presence. It was like a team was in the control room with me, and I couldn't see them, but I could hear. It was like I was translating music into language. It was this flow of thousands of different conversations and perspectives coming into my awareness. Just like the first time, it did kind of feel like dying again. It felt like a detachment, but not like in a cold way. It was like realizing that life on Earth is like a class or a school, and that when I do pass away, it's like a graduation. I'm moving on to the next stage. I have a lot of love for this life that I put so much into. I've worked so hard to be who I am. It was a feeling of peace with the fact that my time here is temporary. Every time I opened my eyes and came out of that control room, it felt like I was taking a VR helmet off. It was very, very vivid, very intense. Now, the only negative from this second infusion is I felt so nauseated. I had to just have ginger ale and Taco Bell afterward, and that helped me. I know that this happened because I ate beforehand, and the first infusion was earlier in the morning, so I had not eaten yet. So that's a heads up too. Just like the first time, it took about 12 days for me to feel the full effect of the infusion as far as the pain relief. I remember being so blown away because I actually was able to work at my day job for like 4 days in a row, which is something that is really, really hard for me. I felt pretty okay. Like by the 4th day, I was like feeling it. I was like, okay, I need to rest. But I didn't feel terrible full body pain that I usually get. Okay, infusion number 3, the divine has nothing to hide. So the first infusion was an introduction, the second one was like being in the fighter's corner. The third infusion was definitely more personal for me. Like before, there was this distinct sense of not being human, but experiencing humanness. So there was a separation of like, not me the human, me being the human. This is a costume almost. I felt like an alien learning about humans for the first time, and I had so many burning questions and curiosity. I was so happy because I kept remembering, oh my god, I get to go back to Earth and be her? I get to be this person? Really? I couldn't believe it. I felt like I'd been given such a gift to be able to come back and be me. Which again, growing up with so much trauma and depression and a shame identity, I had never felt that before. I never felt happy to be me. I've never felt like I was someone worth being. I have in my ketamine diary here some of the transmissions that I got during the third infusion. I don't get why we make up all of these fake-ass problems in the world. Paradise is ours if we would only accept it. Bodies are not what shame is for. The body is just made of love. Wow, this whole system gotta go. I am alive. So much work to do on Earth. Being human is a challenge. So many constructs that hold us back. Identity hoax, give up the ghost. Pretty intense, and they really do come in like transmissions. So after the third infusion with those 2 other ones in my system, it was really just a huge shift. I had such a great baseline of a positive mood and a positive perspective of myself and my life that I've never had before. And then the pain and the fatigue and just all my symptoms in general were so easy to manage. Like I still had pain, I still had to take my rest breaks and stuff like that, but I didn't feel tortured all the time by it. I was getting so much work done. I was editing like crazy, recording, going to my day job. I felt so happy. I was like, damn, like this is literally life-changing. If I could get this regularly, I would be a rock star. If I could get it even once a month, it would make a difference because it would give me a couple weeks where I felt really good, and then I could just keep, working on stuff and catch up on stuff, catch up on life. Unfortunately, my insurance didn't cover anymore, so I only had those 3 infusions, but the impact they had on me was seriously profound. I don't want to say that I recommend it because it is something that you have to decide for yourself if it's right for you. If you're like me and, antidepressants and pain pills and stuff like that is just bad, something like this might be good for you. Talk to your doctor, see if it's something that maybe they can get you in to have a consultation for and see if it's right for you. They have sedatives on hand, so in in case you do have a bad trip, they can just come over and with your permission give you like some Xanax or something. I do know that if they give it to you before the infusion, that you're not gonna trip as hard. This is what I've heard from so many different people and from the doctor. You don't have as much of an experience, and some people like me, like that experience is really part of the therapy. It's gonna be a different experience for each person. It's going to be unique to you and where you're at in your life. I do know also that cannot do ketamine infusion therapy if you are already on certain medications like antidepressants. If you decide that it's something that's right for you, you might taper off under supervision and get to a point where it will be safe for you to try that. So yeah, that was my experience getting 3 ketamine infusion therapies. I hope that this video was informative. I hope that it gave you some insight into what the treatment can be like for someone, and I hope that it opened your mind to it as well. Alright holograms, that was it. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much to my patrons for making this video possible, and a huge shout out to my superstar holograms. Thank you, I love you. I leave you all with a good luck kiss, and may the spoons be with you. Bye.
Okay, honey. Oh.
Ashy.